Hi, everybody. It's Chaya Parkoff, licensed clinical social worker, and this is ParshaRx, mental health prescriptions from the weekly Torah portion. This week's Parsha is Tisa, and we enter this Shabbat right on the heels of Purim. Purim begins Thursday night, all day Friday, and as it ends, we transition into Shabbat. And Purim is a time when we transition from the chaos of Haman's decree to the joy of redemption. The themes of both Tisa and Purim are deeply connected, reminding us that what we see on the surface is not always the full reality. In Parsha Tisa, Bnei Yisrael, the Jewish people, panic when Moses does not return from Har Sinai, from Mount Sinai. But what led them to this moment of fear? They miscalculated the day he was supposed to return. According to Rashi, Moshe had told them he would be gone for 40 days, but they misunderstood how to count. When according to their incorrect calculation, he did not return, they assumed the worst, believing he had died. Feeling lost and abandoned, they grasped at something tangible, and they made the golden calf. This mistake was not just a technical miscount. It was a moment of deep psychological distress. When people feel abandoned, when fear takes over, rational thought goes out the window. It's neuroscience. The frontal lobe, where we can actually think, goes offline. Instead of waiting, instead of trusting that maybe they had miscalculated, they rush to create a false source of security. Fear, uncertainty, and desperation often push us to look for something, anything, to make us feel safe, even if it's a lie. But not everything we see on the surface is real. Not everything we see on the surface is the truth. There's something beneath the mask. Purim is all about masks. The Megillah, the book of Esther, is full of hidden truths. Esther hides her identity. Haman pretends to be loyal to the king. And even God is hidden in the story, never mentioned by name. But behind the disguises, the reality remains. God is always present, guiding history toward the ultimate redemption. And this is a basic tenet of Judaism. Today, we are living through a time of masks. Hamas and its supporters wear masks, both literal masks and figurative masks. They disguise their evil under the mask of resistance. They masquerade as victims while they brutalize the innocent. And even more terrifyingly and quite mind-boggling to me, so much of the world has been fooled by these masks. Even some of our own people have been fooled by these masks, defending murderers while ignoring the suffering of hostages. But we don't always need to understand why all these things are happening in order to continue forward with faith and resilience. I once heard a story of a man who lived well into his late years. I think he was even in his hundreds. And when asked the secret to his longevity, he replied, "I figure that when I leave this world, I will finally find out why everything happened the way it did. So as long as I don't ask why down here, they have no reason to bring me up there." There is very deep wisdom in this. Sometimes not knowing why is the very thing that keeps us alive. The Jewish people couldn't handle the uncertainty of why Moshe had delayed, so they created a false answer, a false sense of security, a golden calf. And yet Moshe later asks God, "Show me your ways." And Hashem answers, you will see my back, but my face will not be seen." This is really the source for hindsight is 2020. We only see it when looking backwards. We don't always see the full picture in the moment. Sometimes clarity comes only in hindsight. But just as Esther's story unfolded from despair to redemption, we must believe that the masks will eventually fall. The truth will be revealed, and justice, true justice, will prevail. As a therapist and a brain spotting practitioner, I often help people recognize that the world we see on the surface, the mask of our fears, of our pain, and our trauma, is not the whole picture. Sometimes the chaos around us activates deep emotional responses, anger, fear, helplessness. But we are not helpless. We are not powerless. We are not hopeless. We have internal resources to anchor ourselves, even when the world feels upside down. I'm going to teach you right now a resource that you can use and anchor within you. In brain spotting, we call this a resource gaze spot. It's a place where your eyes naturally settle to help ground yourself when you feel triggered. It allows you to shift from being activated to being present, from overwhelmed to centered. You just find where you look that you can feel grounded, neutral, calm. Even if your eyes are closed, wherever your eyes go, where you can feel that sense, that's an internal anchor. Purim teaches us the same lesson. When the world is filled with confusion, when truth is hidden behind masks, we must find our internal anchor and hold on to it. So, what is our mental health prescription for this week? Number 1, remember that the truth lies beneath the surface. What we see on the news, what we see on social media, what we see even in our own emotions may not be the whole story. There's more, and it will be revealed. Number 2, search for a gaze that brings you a sense of calm, groundedness, or even neutrality when you find yourself activated. When the world feels overwhelming, having an internal place of stillness is a very powerful tool. And number 3, realize and remember that we all have inside us the ability to connect with the ultimate resource anchor, God Himself, God herself, God itself. God is beyond gender. When we feel lost, when the world feels upside down, Hashem, God, is there, even when hidden. The Lubavitcher Rebbe taught that even when we don't see open miracles, we are never abandoned. We must know that God is with us, that darkness will be transformed into light. As we enter this special Shabbat, coming right after Purim, we hold on to the message that hiddenness does not equal absence. The world may be wearing a mask of moral confusion, but we must be like Esther, standing firm in our truth, acting with courage, and trusting in Hashem's ultimate justice. And when we find ourselves overwhelmed by the noise of the world, we can find our own internal gaze spot, recenter, and remember that truth and light will ultimately prevail. May we soon, very soon, see the day when the masks of deception are removed, the hostages come home, and light overtakes the darkness. Purim Sameach and Shabbat Shalom.